Now, in this video, we'll talk about user-defined exception. Now, what is user-defined exception is, let's say for that, let's take two variables, I and j, and we'll do the same operation that we have doing from the last few tutorials, that is dividing by 0. So let's say, again, let me give my own values. Instead of going for user input, let's say it is I equal to, let's say, 4, and j is equal to, let's say, 2. And then I will say k equal to I divided by j. And let me print the value of k here. So we'll say system.out.println. We'll say we'll say the output, it should print the value of k. Now if I run this application, obviously the output will be 2, right? So there's no error here. So we'll say if I run this application, the output is 2. But what if the output is 0? So as you know, it will give me an error, right? So if I run this, it will give me an error, which is arithmetic exception. So to handle this error, what we need to do is we need to use a try catch. So we'll say it is as try, and so we'll say try, and we'll say a catch. So we'll say catch exception E, and somewhere here we'll type system dot out dot println, and we'll print the value of E. Or instead of printing E, we can simply print, okay, we'll print E here to show the error. Now if I run this, instead of printing that red color error, it will print error in a normal format. So it's an error which is divided by 0. You can even print your own error, which is you cannot divide by 0. But in this example, we'll stick to E. Now let's say if I give a value which is 2, and the output will be 2, right? Let's say if I give a value 5, and 5 divided by 2 will be 2. And if I say 5 divided by 4, if I say 5 divided by 4, the output will be 1, because in integer, 5 divided by 4, it will only take the integer part or the question part, which is 1. Now what I want, even if your value is 1, it should throw an error which is arithmetic exception. Then you will say, how is that possible? Yes, that is possible. Now how to do that? We can simply say if your k value is equal to 1, what we can do is we can throw our own error. So we'll say it is, or we can generate an error. So we can say throw new arithmetic exception. So it is purposefully we are throwing the exception. No need, but we are throwing it. We are throwing it here. So we'll say it is arithmetic exception. Okay, we'll use a constructor like it. I guess I made a spelling mistake here. So it is arithmetic exception. Now, even if your value is 1, it will print an error. So if I say run as Java application, I guess I clicked on debug. Anyway, the output is arithmetic exception, right? It's because we are saying new arithmetic exception. If you want to print an error here, we can simply pass the value, which will say answer cannot be 1. So if I run this now, so you can see the output is arithmetic exception and answer cannot be 1. So this is how we can generate an error by yourself. But this is not user-defined exception, right? Now question arises, I don't want to print, or I don't want to call arithmetic exception. I want to call something called as my exception. So my exception here is my own exception. You can have any name. You can say this is blah blah exception. This is one one exception. You can name it anything. For this example, I'm naming it as my exception. But question arises, what is my exception here? My exception is a class. So we need to define a class called as my exception here. So we'll say class my exception, and we can provide a block here. And now you can see we are having a constructor of my exception here. But hold on, can we use a throw keyword with my exception? No, by default with any class, or first of all, we need to create a constructor which accepts a string. So we'll say public my exception. So one of the constructor will be blank, and the second constructor we need to pass that parameter which is IO exception, and we need to say it is string message. Okay, so we need to pass that thing. Now, can I use a throw keyword with my class? No. Unfortunately, your class is a normal class, which is my exception. We need to convert that class into a throwable class. And how to do that, that we'll see in the next part.